So like I use the Luminar AI and stuff like that sometimes.
But someone still has to make a judgment call on if it's good or not.
Yeah, I don't.
It seems like it's more of like a tool to make your job easier than it is replacing somebody.
Yeah, I don't think it's kind of like Photoshop, like when you click out like like a pimple or something and it replaces it with another. Sometimes it gets it wrong. Sometimes there's a tree on my face.
Yes.
You know, you ever have that? Or like sometimes now I have two noses. You know, it takes from a and. You know, it's not looking at a face. It's looking at what it knows about a face and like where contrast and highlights and shadows are usually. And so if these are the eyes, then that means the highlights of the but it's not actually knowing what it's doing. Yeah, you know what I mean?
It's trial and error for it, basically.
Yeah, and
even if it does get to the point where it literally could get it right 100% of the time or 99.9% of the time.
But what's right? Because stylistics, it's subjective. So
maybe I want that pimple there.
Right. No, yeah.
Maybe this is an ad for pimples.
Right. So Luminar AI will sometimes do this thing where it like just will with one button it'll airbrush the whole face. And it's like, whoa.
Looks good though?
No. No, I mean I don't like that style. But to someone who does that, it might look good.
Mine just looks glowy.
It looks very glowy. It does a decent job with like knowing where highlights and shadows should be and where to dodge and burn, but it doesn't always look realistic.
It probably looks better than if you didn't know how to do that stuff.
Yes, if you just had no idea, then sure, maybe put that on.
It seems like it's to make it more consumer than it is.
Yes, it's like a prosumer, I'll call it, where like
like maybe you could use it just to kind of like you do the auto on Lightroom to kind of see.
Yeah, sometimes
where it gauges the photo and what it's
exactly. But I've used Luminar AI like face retouch sometimes, and I've stopped doing it because it's not the style I want, and it's not going to learn that. You know, there's no way I can like
change that.
Yeah, there's no way I can dial it in. So.
Would you say if you were doing glam shoots, you'd use it more, or like
not
high fashion shoots?
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's a little much though. I mean, I don't know. It all depends on like what the reference is for that artificial intelligence.
Your style isn't conventional, regardless.
Right, but I there's no AI that I've seen that knows how to edit in my style like goth.
Auto goth?
Yeah, no, there's no auto goth. Because I do like contrasty and I don't mind blemishes or like non-perfect skin and stuff like that. So like, dark lighting stuff. Like when I press auto on some of my shit, like in Lightroom, it'll just make it bright, and I get that. Like, yeah, it's correctly lit, but we're not doing that here, you know. And like, it way overexposes because the pictures I take underexposed photos.
Yes.
On purpose, in camera.
Because that way you're able to keep the data.
Yes, in camera because it's already gonna be dark. I'm often taking pictures of all black outfits, and so I need that detail, that extra texture and detail in my photos. And so when when I press the auto edit or whatever, yeah, it's well lit, but I didn't take a picture for that anyway. I took it purposely knowing that it's going to be underexposed, and I wanted that. I'm going to correct the shadows and highlights and exposure, afterward, but I want this to be my starting point. Whereas they think, oh, he's way off, I need to overcorrect, and now it's a burn fest, and all my highlights are burnt out, and like all the whites are overexposed and shit. Because I was never going to go that far anyway. You know what I mean? So yeah, it for me, specifically as a goth photographer, I could see where that would be difficult for an AI to like. Another thing Luminar AI gets wrong with me a lot is a lot of my models do like a lot of makeup, and sometimes they'll have designs on their eyes and stuff like that. AI doesn't like that. AI
they don't like that.
It gets very confused.
I can imagine just eyeshadow probably makes it go crazy.
Well, sharp eyeshadow, not like a blush, but like a lot. I mean, almost everyone I shoot has like a wing.
Yes.
Or an outline, and AI will often get that confused with their actual eye.
They think it's just skin. But,
yeah, they think
it's so outlined and so sharp.
Because the reason they think it's just skin is because that contrast, whatever AI is built in, must think, okay, when I recognize that means that's the end of their eyelid. Because normally there's contrast here naturally.
Yes.
So when you make even more contrast, that's the end of the eye. Like, no. And then what'll happen is
Picasso.
Yeah, where it tries to like clear up like the eye, but it missed the eye entirely, and it like does some weird highlight shit with like the edge of their eyelid sometimes, and I'm like, what?
Imagine sending that shit to them.
Yeah, well, no one would be happy. Now look, we're all stupid. So yeah, like especially with the goth photography, like sometimes it gets confused with a piercing. So with like a septum piercing, sometimes there's little metal like balls at the end, and at a certain angle, it looks like the balls are in the nose. It looks like maybe they could be like something in your nose, but a human looking at that, right? They're just overlaid over the nostrils. They're not in the fucking. Luminar AI has removed people's nostrils because they were like, "What is that?" And then they just like take like cheek skin and put it where the nostrils are. So now you just have no nose. You just have a lump on your face.
You know that horror effect where they remove someone's face.
Oh, like the Pan's Labyrinth with the no eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like no, it looks weird. It looks like someone just like closed the skin over your nose.
Someone just wiped your nose.
Yeah, it's horrifying.
The smudge.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And the problem that I've found with Luminar AI is like. And I haven't used it in a while, but it has updated a little bit. In the beginning, it was like all or nothing, like an AI switch. Like you're either gonna get all of it or none of it. So like, now they have like a portrait thing where you can adjust like the skin retouching and stuff, or like, and it's a meter where you can adjust it. But it used to just be like on or off, and it's like, so okay, what if I like the skin retouching, but you took my eyeball out? It's all or nothing.
Yeah, it's either I get it without the eyeball,
or you just go deal with it.
Yeah.
And like that wasn't cool, but they've updated since.
It sounds like what it's becoming now is just how you would normally have to do is updating your highlights and contrast and shit like that.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
Again, it doesn't.
But that's how it should be. It should be intuitive. It shouldn't be all or nothing, or else it's like you want to use it at all.
Yeah.
You want
like,
to make the feature intuitive.
Exactly, and the thing about editing is that's how we make our pictures our own.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
Maybe I do the same thing as Ragusa or David Garcia, except for one little part that I make it my own. With the AI, some of it, even skin retouching, it's still just a click and drag, like 0 to 100, the amount of skin retouching, but you don't get to choose what type. So, like, what if I wanted the blur effect without the dodge and burn, or what if I wanted the blemish removal without the blur? You don't get, it's all or nothing, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
So you're, even at 50, you're getting 50% of all of it, all together. Mm-hmm. And that's not always something I want. I like texture. I like skin texture. I like some blemishes. I like some contrast and like some detail on the skin. But they also have a button where it's like blemish removal, but it's not accurate because some of the places it reads to take, it'll get rid of it's usually accurate at finding like a blemish, but it's not that great at taking from another part. Finding...
Like cloning it.
Yeah, like sometimes there will be a tree on someone. And it's like, well... And there's no way you can click and drag somewhere else.
There's no remove tree button.
Yeah. There's no like, oh, you got the spot right, but you didn't get the clone part right, so I can move the clone part and clone from here instead of the tree. No.
What it needs to become is just become the base. The same thing the auto is for Lightroom. It just becomes a base for something, and you're able to take away.
I think the easiest way to edit is stuff like LUTs, stuff like presets. That's what I use.
Yeah.
And then I just do skin retouching and adjustments there. But for the basic,
it sounds like the auto thing is just for skin retouching, isn't it?
No, you can replace skies with it.
With the auto.
Yeah, it's actually pretty good.
That's probably better because human faces are difficult.
Yeah, but a sky it reads it very well.
It's usually the same texture.
Yeah, and it reads depth very well. It knows when something's in front or behind. Probably
works great for landscape shots.
Yeah, I mean, I think it helps that I shoot a very thin depth of field. Mm-hmm. So like 1.4, I think it's more obvious for the computer to know what's in focus and what's not. But if I shot at 11, f11, I don't know where it would find the contrast to know what's in front and what's behind. But yeah, the Luminar AI has a great sky replacement. I know that. Other than that, though, I mean, I don't mind editing my own shit because that's part of the process that I love. I mean, even batch editing is fairly easy on Lightroom and Photoshop. So
That's where you copy and paste
right,
what you need.
yeah,
Values and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
So like, do I think there's a place for AI editing? Yes, but I don't think it's good enough now to justify it.
Yeah, and it's not gonna replace anyone's job.
No,
Ever.
because if we're all just using Luminar AI to edit our photos, then a lot of them are going to come out the same.
Yeah, it's gonna look.
You
like
know what I
shit.
mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason why Peter McKinnon has such a unique style. It's super contrasty, super vibrant, super like textural.
Mhm.
And if everyone's shit looked like that, then his shit wouldn't be cool. So, that's kind of
Well,
like
people's style is what separates them.
exactly, and
It's photography is still
and
art.
especially with me, and I have such like a unique style. Not
Exactly. Everyone has a unique style, though.
exactly, but like, photographers take that seriously, and as we should, because that's a
That's
way
what
to
separates
separate.
you.
That's what makes the art great, is that
Yes.
we can all do our own thing.
Mhm.
So any tool that like tries to take away options for me editing isn't really what I'm into.
Mhm.
Again, it's useful for some shit, not for others, but it's a cool thing to experiment. I love like looking at the new updates and stuff, seeing if it gets any better. Because something like skin retouching could be, if you just want to do a base skin retouch without dodging and burning and all that shit, like, yeah, it might be good for that. And then you can paint in highlights or whatever wherever you want, but it just does too much immediately. It
Yeah.
takes too much control out of it
It
all
makes
at
you
once.
forget what the original photo looked like.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also, it just feels like you're going backwards because it changed so much. And
Now I
maybe-
gotta fix things that
Yeah.
you did.
Yeah, which is gonna take more time than it would have been if I would have just
Exactly,
done it myself.
yeah.